Hello everyone, welcome to the first episode of my Scrapbook and Chill series where I answer your questions about all things decolonial theory, curatorial practice and contemporary art galleries while working on my scrapbook. For this episode, I've scanned and printed an image I drew in one of my sketchbooks and also bought this cool Galaxy scrapbook paper. I've selected 4 questions to answer today, so let's get into it. The first question I have here today is what do you think about the use and abuse of the word decolonization in academia? So ever since I started getting into decolonial studies, I noticed how often the word decolonization is misused in a lot of different spaces. In academia, I'd see these papers and events entitled decolonizing this or decolonizing that, but then later realised that the content of the discussion is about diversity in the most basic form. For example, events titled decolonizing the curriculum, which are actually about adding a couple of people of colour to a previously all-white reading list, which of course is an improvement, but not quite what it says on the tin. I feel like this misuse of the word is something that I feel undermines what decolonization is actually about, because there's so much more to decolonial processes than diverse representation, which is something that I actually want to discuss in my next video. Personally, I see this misrepresentation as an act of further oppression because it dilutes the radicalism that underpins the work. I think what's happening to the word decolonization is the same thing that happened to the word intersectionality, where people just started sprinkling the word about like academic seasoning without actually getting to grips with what the word meant. It actually really grates me when I see people use the term to bait people into reading articles and attending events that aren't about decolonization, because it's just a waste of time all round. The second question I have is, how are modernity and modernism connected? In my last video on epistemicide in contemporary galleries, I spoke about modernism and modernity because they are both concepts that are very key to understanding why current mainstream concepts of art and aesthetics are so Eurocentric. In the humanities and social sciences, the term modernity is commonly used to describe the norms, attitudes and practices which emerged during the historical period known as the modern era. A key event during this time was European colonialism, and European thinkers were working very hard to position Europe as the central beacon of universal knowledge and innovation. This was partly achieved through the obscuration of the existence of knowledge systems and cultural histories located outside of Europe. Areas which this movement heavily influenced include politics, philosophy, science, gender, roles, art and beauty. What can be confusing is that modernity is sometimes also referred to as modernism, and the term modernism is also used in art history to describe the art movement which arose during this period that was inspired by the socio-political movement. Modern art was defined by the departure from the traditional ways of creating art and embracement of experimentation. Some of the most influential artists that emerged during this period include Vincent van Gogh, Henri Matisse and Picasso. There were, of course, many artists of colour and non-European cultures who influenced European modern artists. However, the ones that I've mentioned are probably the ones that many people who were educated in the West are probably more familiar with due to our Eurocentric and whitewashed education system. My research builds upon the work of other decolonial thinkers who have recognised and challenged the ways in which modernity has influenced the creation of Eurocentric norms within the arts. For anyone who's interested in this area, I highly suggest that you read the Decolonial Aesthetics Manifesto by the Transnational Decolonial Institute, which I will link in the description box below. The next question is, how can artists of colour protect themselves from colonial harm? Firstly, by colonial harm, I'm assuming that we are talking about artists of colour being exploited by Eurocentric art institutions. Some people might also refer to this sort of thing as a form of racial capitalism. Although my first thoughts are that artists should not have to protect themselves from colonial harm, because institutions shouldn't be creating those kind of situations in the first place, I do feel like it's an important question that probably a lot of emerging artists may ask themselves at one point or the other. So I'll try to give some useful advice, because I think it's very easy for artists of colour to be exploited by institutions who want to use their work to tick boxes. Firstly, I think that artists always need to do thorough research on the gallery that they're working with and the curatorial team within that gallery. Being able to take part in an exhibition or have your own solo is a major thing for an artist's career, but this excitement sometimes clouds other things that are also important to consider, like, is your work being used for good diversity PR, or does this gallery actually have a genuine interest in exhibiting your work and sharing your vision? The second thing that I think artists can do is make sure that they build a good relationship between the curator that they're working with. I think the relationship dynamics between artists and curators is very important, because what we don't want is artists' work to be misrepresented or them being pigeonholed into a category that they did not agree to. I think that it's really important to make sure that it's good vibes all around before, during and after an exhibition. The final question I have is, are there any projects or organisations out there which challenge or reimagine the White Cube gallery aesthetic? I'm going to mention two projects. One is an organisation that I've been following for the last year called The Anti-Gallery, which is a pop-up gallery and creative platform founded by the independent Nottingham-based curator César Puri. The reason I'm really interested in the Anti-Gallery is because their vibe is all about breaking the mould and exhibiting work outside the traditional gallery setting and celebrating urban culture and street art. The second place I'm going to mention is called Black Cube, and it's an organisation which describes themselves as a nomadic contemporary art museum. They are all about embracing alternative ways of showcasing art too, and engaging audiences and artists outside the traditional gallery format. And they organise lots of pop-up exhibitions across the world and also have an artist fellowship programme. I definitely want to catch up with both Black Cube and the Anti-Gallery at some point during my research journey, because I think that they will have loads of interesting things to say. Well, that's it for the first episode of Scrapbook and Chill. I hope that you found some of my answers to these questions useful and like how this piece turned out. If you have any questions that you want me to answer in next month's Scrapbook and Chill, please drop me a message in the comments of this video or send me a message on Twitter at BlackGallerina. Thank you for watching, take care and see you soon.